Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 10. It's called The Defector. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This episode, quite simple premise. A Romulan appears, requesting SOS. He's on the run from another Romulan ship, and the Enterprise pick him up, and he claims that he is here, and he's defecting because he's here to warn of a new war that the Romulans are about to start. And the episode is pretty much, should Picard and the crew believe him and, heed his warning, or is this a trap that the Romulans are trying to set up by having him plant this false information? And that's kind of that's the setup. So, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, maybe that's just slightly skewed by the fact that we're coming off the previous two. But I think it's actually quite a good one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Obviously I was excited when I heard the description from last time, and I don't know if it necessarily lived up to exactly what my brain was like firing at when I heard the last description, but it still had a lot of the beats that I kind of wanted. It did some interesting stuff. I liked that it did tie into at least one of the Romulans from the last Romulan episode. Jakar from Babylon 5 showed back up. His name in this though is Tom Alak, just so I could say that instead, because I'm really tempted to just call him Jakar every time he shows up. But he eventually shows back up, and I thought that was a nice touch. It felt like, we've actually got kind of a villain Romulan who we're going to see from time to time that.
Yeah, because it was interesting. Just earlier on, Crusher references that she's just treated Romulans recently, so she's kind of got some extra knowledge now. And I thought, okay, cool. We're kind of keeping that as very recent history. That's kind of there. I wasn't actually expecting to see anyone else at that point. So that was cool that we got to that.
Yeah, I dug that as well. I dug that she kind of like brought up that they talked about how she'd only just recently had a chance to poke around the Romulan and so on. So no, I like that running continuity is there, and it really feels like we're building to some kind of conflict, or at least something with this Tom Alak. So yeah, so the big thing, of course, is that the big reveal is that kind of both are true ultimately, in that this Romulan is not lying. He does lie about who he is because he says he's just like a low level like analyst or something like that. It says, but it turns out he's actually an admiral, and the reason why he lied about who he was is because he's got a bit of a reputation. He was responsible for a massacre or two. So
because there's the Federation Council kind of like, hey, we've found out who this guy is. You do not believe a word he says. Yeah.
Well, it's worth mentioning that's right after. I mean, Picard knows who he is at that point, because this is like them confirming it. Because he makes the choice, because he's been kind of lying about who he is, and no one's really believing him or wanting to trust him. And it's a conversation he has with Data, where he's sort of saying, my Romulans, would love to poke around inside you, and Data notices that he's not getting quite the comforts of home from looking out at the stars because it's not his system. So he takes him to the holodeck and shows him the a place on Romulus and says, "Hey, look at this." And he likes seeing it for like a minute, and he's like, "You know what? This isn't real. This is not where I live now. Turn this off." And we see the grid of the holodeck, as we've seen once or twice before, and he's like, "You know what? This all can't be in vain. I've lost my home. I've given up my home. I've given up my family. It can't be in vain. Tell the captain that Admiral Jarok is ready to see him." And it's like, oh, that's a little reveal. And that's when we get, so Picard's heard this, obviously. He confirms this. We get him calling into some, Admiral or whatever on the Federation side. And probably my favourite scene of the episode is where he actually has to convince him to actually, because even though he wants to stop this war, because he wants his family, as he puts it, his daughters to grow up in a world where they don't have to fight like his generation did. He wants a better galaxy for his kids. He still doesn't want to give up Romulan secrets. He doesn't want to give them secrets about their ships, about how they attack, their techniques. He doesn't want to give them any of that. He's still loyal to the Romulans in that sense.
It's understandable, because from his perspective, giving up that information, he might as well be inviting a genocide. As far as he's concerned, it's like, well, you'll have this huge advantage. You could go in there and wipe my people out. So I get why you wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and obviously from our perspective, we know that the Federation, at least in theory, wouldn't do that, because the Federation, they're kind of against that kind of thing.
In theory, but I mean,
yeah,
I buy why the enemy wouldn't.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's the whole idea of the Romulan, because I think my favorite thing about this episode, I mean, that was my favorite scene, is him, like, Picard having to convince him and say, look, I'm only going to do this, I'm only going to believe anything you say if I get completely, like, cooperation in every single way. Like, we can't half-ass this.
It's when he's like, look, you've not come to me with any evidence, no proof. I want to believe you, but you've got to tell me why the hell you're here doing this, and you've got to make me believe it. And he does. So then that's when he tells him about his family and such. Mm-hmm. But it's a great conversation.
And it's only after this where he gives him the information of, because he's claiming there's this base on this planet, which is kind of the first post against this new assault. So, and they've been avoiding going there all episodes because they don't really trust him, and it may be a trap. And it's after this where he's like, okay, he's given us everything that he can. We're going to go out there and check out this planet. And that's where there is a trap, and it turns out that the reason why it's kind of both true is that he was being honest, but the evidence of, like, well, it felt like the ship that was chasing him wasn't really trying to kill him. It was like they're pulling their punches a little bit. Is that because it was all a setup? And it kind of was a setup. It was a setup he wasn't in on. He was duped into essentially betraying them. So he's still going to be seen as a traitor to the Romulans, but they intentionally kind of baited him because they suspected that he was dissatisfied.
They kind of knew where he was going. They kind of got the impression of where he was going, that he might, turn traitor at any point. So they kind of just fed him false information. Yeah,
I love the way it plays off that last Romulan episode, though, because when Tom Alak shows up and he's like, Picard, we meet again, but it's you that's now on this side of the neutral zone, and he gets, like, really cocky about it, and I'm like, I kind of dig this. I dig that he's kind of thrown this back in his face. He's like, last time you were giving me all the nasty words because I was doing wrong things. Now you've done something. And there's the stuff earlier on in the episode where Data kind of makes it clear that, no, the Romulans' tactic, typically anyway, is to sort of trick the enemy into making the first move so that they're not the aggressor.
Yeah, not even necessarily trick. Like they say, they'll just creep into their territory further and further and just push the limits until the other side has no choice but to retaliate.
Yeah, but it'll never look like a retaliation, in theory.
Yeah, it will always look like they had the first strike.
Yeah, so... yeah, he gets really cocky, and I did kind of pop when it was revealed the reason why Picard's not too scared here is because they've got a fleet of Klingon warbirds at the ready. Yeah. That was a really cool moment, and even at the end when Picard turns to Worf and says, "Oh, Worf, give my my deepest thanks to the Klingon fleet, please." And he's like, "Yes." Yeah. Yes, Captain. I'm like, yeah, they kind of build us out here. It's kind of interesting that we're at this point now where the Romulans are this enemy, but the Klingons are now kind of on our side, kind of thing. I don't know.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of dug that. I dug that as a moment. Because obviously it's been a long thing since the original series that the Klingons got their cloaking tech from the Romulans. So I love this double play on them. Really neat stuff. And I enjoy Tom Alak. I think obviously I like the actor, but like I think he's kind of perfect in this sort of slimy villainous way. Not even villainous. He's the slimy politician who's arguing with Picard and thinking he's got the upper hand. Because he outright tells Picard, "We're going to take your ship and we're going to hang it in the middle of the capital of Romulus so that everyone can see that we defeated you, and it's going to inspire generations of our soldiers."
Yeah, no, it's real good, and I come out this without that bias of liking the actor already. Sure. So I'm not familiar with him. So it's not just you kind of projecting what you already know from other performances. No, it is really just an interesting character and a good fun performance that he's putting on for this.
Yeah, no, really solid. I like his presence. I like how he plays off Picard. And when he says at the end of this episode, like, "Oh well, I guess we'll have to just see how things go next time, Picard." And I'm like, yeah, I hope there is a next time. I hope
it's like a fun little nemesis we got here, isn't it?
Yeah, I really hope that there is at least a third time where we get to see like the payoff to this. If not outright, he's around for a while and we get him every so often. But I hope it's at least
that's best case scenario.
Yeah, but I hope it's at least a one more time where we get a finale to their little conflict. I'd be really into that.
They're kind of tied at the minute, one each. We need a definitive winner.
Yeah. So, well, I feel like, this Romulan stuff is definitely stuff is bubbling, right? And has been bubbling since the finale of season 1. And, which is actually kind of insane that it was that long ago that they started kind of teasing this stuff.
I think it was because they teased it with like one line, and then I feel like we went a long time with kind of nothing. I feel like we've already had more in season 3 than we did in like most of season 2.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just one line. I mean, the entire season 1 finale was about building up to the Romulans being back.
Yeah.
We saw Romulans. It wasn't just a line of dialogue.
We did.
Yeah, so...
I'm likening that to the one line that kicked it off.
Sure. So I dug all that. And obviously we have this really sad, bittersweet ending where the Admiral kills himself because he has this moment where he realizes he's been duped, and he says, it was all for nothing. Like, I gave up my family and my home, and I can never go back now. And that's something that was pointed out earlier. Even Data, before he realized it was for nothing, Data said to him, it's very unlikely you will ever be able to go home. And at the end of the episode, he kills himself. He's got some pills or whatever that he's snuck on board with him so that he can kill himself if he needs to be. And Crusher's like, well, sorry, Captain, there was no way of, he's already dead for a start, but we don't have an antidote for this. This is something that Romulans have. We just don't have a fix for it. And he leaves a suicide note for his wife and daughters, and they say that, he knew that we couldn't just send this to them. We can't send messages to Romulus. That's just not a thing we can do right now. And because no, but he's hoping that one day we can. That one day things will be better, and there will be some form of peace where we can send a message. And I think this moment almost worked even better for me, having watched Picard. And it's not that all Romulans are friends, because they're definitely not. There's a lot of sneaky Romulan stuff going on, but there are Romulans who trust Picard. There's definitely a relationship there that's as different from what it is now on the show. So it's kind of nice knowing that somewhere down the line there is a better relationship with Romulans.
Correct me if I'm wrong on Picard, but a lot of what happens with the Romulans in that show is it comes out of the events of the Abrams movie, what happened with their planet in that.
Because Romulus is destroyed. So there's still a lot of Romulans kicking about, but their planet's gone.
Because that was a whole big thing in the 2009 movie.
Which I actually kind of like they incorporated that. Is the idea that happened still in the main timeline with everything. And obviously that movie comes out of someone going back in time and trying to alter things, but in the main timeline, it still keeps going forward, and we still have the fallout from it.
I really appreciate the idea that they went, okay, well, those movies are separate, and we could just choose to ignore them entirely. And, that there's perfectly valid reasons to do that, but the idea that they went, no. They went with this, we're going to run with it, and kind of just play with that. That's interesting.
And honestly, maybe even the idea that we know Romulus gets destroyed in the future, and, the not too distant future at that, in the grand scheme of things, makes this even more kind of bittersweet. It's he keeps talking about how much he loves his planet and his home, and that's where his family is, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
So it's not even so much that when Picard says hopefully there's a day when we can send this. It's not just even though there's some better relations. It's not even knowing that there's better to come or that he's right and things will be better. It's more just that there is a noticeable outcome. There's a noticeable change in the future that is in the Star Trek canon from the later shows, maybe even later in Next Gen itself. Obviously we've not watched the rest of it yet. I don't know how far this goes in this show
maybe itself. In their own movies.
Yeah. So because I know Romulans are a part of Nemesis for a start, because Tom Hardy's a Romulan, if I recall.
Is he really?
Oh wait, no, maybe he's not. No, he's like a clone. He's like a clone of Picard or something like that in Nemesis.
What the hell is that movie?
I'm sure there's Romulans. There's Romulans. Something.
Tom Hardy's a clone of Picard.
I'm pretty sure he's a clone of Picard. Yeah, he's got.
I can't wait to see that.
He's got the bald head in it. It's like a really young Tom Hardy. This is like Tom Hardy before anyone knew who Tom Hardy was. It's just it's a weird time. In fact, I remember when one of the Trek movies was coming out, and it was when Tom Hardy had just done a movie with Chris Pine. I don't know what movie it was actually off the top of my head, but he just done a movie with Chris Pine, and there was obviously this press, the junket or whatever, this I don't know if it was Variety or Deadline or whoever, but they asked everyone they'd interviewed in the last little while if they prefer Star Wars or Star Trek, and I remember thinking it got to that, and it was it was Chris Pine, Tom Hardy, and maybe whoever the female lead of this movie was, and they said, oh, would you prefer Star Trek or Star Wars? And Tom Hardy goes, well, it's got to be Star Trek, hasn't it? And I sort of had that moment where I went, oh, he's saying that because Chris Pine's sitting next to him. And then I stopped and went, wait a minute, he was in a Star Trek movie as well.
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Fun thing with actors of, when they get to a big level, and you'll go back and you'll watch a movie that you had no idea they were in. It was before anyone knew who they were. And they've just got this small role, and you're like, huh, that's them. And of course, almost every actor has those. But it's always fun when you stumble across them without knowing.
Oh yeah, Kate from Lost / Wasp from Ant-Man. You can see her as an extra in Freddy vs. Jason in the high school scene. She's just standing there in the crowd. She's just there. It's one of those little things. But yeah, that episode's good. There's a couple of little beats. Geordi and Data, where Geordi's trying to explain to Data that sometimes you don't have all the information. You have to kind of go with your gut. So he's trying to explain to Data what going with your gut means and how you have to go with instinct. And Data's not quite getting it. He's kind of trying to piece it together. But what if you don't have instinct? Because he's worried he doesn't have any.
Yeah.
So that was a neat little moment. I'm sure you liked all the Shakespeare stuff from the start.
Why not?
It was a weird opening because I was looking forward to this episode, and it had such a weird opening scene where I'm like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, for a minute I was like, "What are we doing here?"
Yeah. Also, I was fairly positive Patrick Stewart was one of the old guys, like in makeup.
I thought that as well. It sounded like him, didn't it?
And then he showed up, and I was like, well, it still could be him, I suppose. He's just playing both roles, but I thought the whole point was that this was Picard, doing the role.
I wonder if it was programmed to be like him.
Yeah, but then Picard shows up.
That makes sense, because it's the whole point is it's the king undercover, right? Walking amongst his own men to get their opinion.
I suppose.
So that would actually really work thematically if it was Picard.
Yeah, but it wasn't really though, because he shows up in uniform, like off to the side.
No, but the idea if in Data's program, he had used the captain as the king.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then I question why wasn't the other dude someone else, unless I just didn't recognize them.
Yeah, I don't know. Because it sounded so much like him that I thought it was as well.
Yeah, so curious moment. But no, I dug the central Romulan, the Admiral. I dug kind of his, but particularly in the second half when he kind of like really put it down the line and said, no, I don't want this war because I don't want us to be at war forever, and I want this better life for my family. And then the ultimate kind of like the suicide because it was all for nothing and he can't go back home. I thought that compared to last episode where we really like fell flat when it came to it tried to make us like have Riker care about the which by the way, the actress, I didn't realize until after the episode, so I'm saying it now. The actress who played the love interest last episode was the main character from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. I realized afterwards. I didn't notice before everyone gives me shit.
It's too late. There was already shit in the comments in YouTube from last week, I'm sure.
From the Dream Master, right? I noticed it was her after we recorded the review. Damn it. I did notice. Anyway, but like this, so there's that moment last episode where Riker he kills her and then he's all sad and sullen because he had to kill her, and it falls flat. We don't care. This episode, this Romulan character is completely new, and yet when he killed himself at the end, or even just before that, when he's standing on the bridge and he's like, "This was all for nothing. I've achieved nothing. I've been duped." Like the Romulan high command has made me out as a fool. They tested my loyalty and now I'm just a traitor to them. Like, I felt it when he said that, when it hit him that he'd done that and it was all for nothing. I actually felt that. So this episode actually gave me a new character and made me care enough so that the dramatic beat that they have in the last act worked. It was like, oh, this was an ending. Yeah, I felt it.
I agree. And do you know what I think I've just kind of noticed is really interesting? Over the last handful of episodes, we've had this recurring theme of failure in some parts. Last episode we had Riker failing and having to kill his love interest, but we had a really good example a couple episodes ago with with the last Romulan one with Worf failing, where the guy died and Worf didn't make that choice in time, and this here with this Admiral, well he was still doing the right thing and he really believed what he was doing. At the end of the day, he failed in his perceived task.
I think that's what makes it more interesting, is that he was actually trying to do the right thing and he believed it, and we understand and we kind of root, in theory, let's say this was all true, we'd be rooting for him to do the right thing here, and we would be happy that he's defecting, we'd be happy that he's given the warning, and we want that happier ending. So the bittersweetness of it actually works really well.
I was going to say, I think this kind of crux of it here is why the second half of the episode is so much better, even though the first half's pretty solid. It's this mystery of, oh, is he on it, is he not, is it a trap, is it a ruse? We're analyzing the evidence, and it's solid. But I think once you get to that conversation with him and Picard, where he comes clean with everything, and you kind of go, okay, no, we believe him now, this is all in. From there, I think the episode actually becomes a lot better, and not necessarily more interesting, but it's got more weight to it from that point because we're going on this assumption that this is true now.
And I think because he's 3-dimensional and he doesn't just hate his home world now, he doesn't just hate his the high command and the Romulan system of
he
order.
Doesn't hate any of their individuals. He doesn't hate his society. He just wants to end he doesn't want war.
Yeah, so and I think because of that, because he's just not a one-dimensional character who all of a sudden is pro-Federation and anti-Romulan, because he's not. He's still very pro-Romulan. He just thinks this is what's best for Romulus. This is what's best for his people, and that makes him a bit more 3-dimensional. And therefore, so every failure he has, every goal he has, it all just rings a little bit more true and has a bit of impact, especially when we get to that last, the big dramatic ending with the suicide. So, no, a really solid episode. I don't know if I liked it as much as the last Romulan episode, but
no, I'm pretty sure I didn't. But I mean, this is not that far behind. It's still really good.
Yeah, no, not bad at all. This was a really solid episode, and like I say, I'm glad that Tomalak was back. So hopefully we get more Romulans this season. So next episode, episode 11, is called The Hunted. Here's the description on IMDb. Investigating a planet applying for membership into the Federation, the crew of the Enterprise finds a group of inhabitants who used to be soldiers but now fight for their very existence. That last part's a bit vague, but I don't like the idea of a planet applying for Federation status. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I wonder how much it parallels with, like, countries trying to join the EU, because that is such a long, drawn-out process. Or there are countries who've been trying to do that for decades at this point. So I wonder what it's like. The logistics of it.
I'm going to assume it's quicker than that just because they want to get it into an episode. But
well, I mean, you say that, but we might be already decades into this process at the time that we're seeing it.
That's true. Maybe the end of the cycle. It might be like they've been doing this for years. Yeah. All right, there you go. That's The Hunted coming next time. But this has been the Defector. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and you can do that for as little as $1 per month, and that'll keep all the content coming. At the $5 tier, you get early access to a bunch of stuff, including the Star Trek reviews, as well as voting rights for some stuff. You get bonus episodes of stuff at the $1 tier, all good stuff. So go and have a look-see. But that is us, and as always, if for some reason you found our Next Gen reviews and you didn't realise because we haven't mentioned it in a long time, we actually did all of the original series. That's all there. You can go watch that or listen to it. Go and have a look at that stuff. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and remember that when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control. And when it comes to the androids, Tasha Yar is in complete control.